Prime Minister Julia Gillard has introduced the National Disability Insurance Scheme legislation this morning, about an hour ago. The bill sets out the structure and the eligibility criteria for the scheme and will be voted on early next year. Ms Gillard says the scheme is a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
The National Disability Insurance Scheme represents a transformational approach to the provision of disability services in this country, rather than attempt to patch and mend the existing system through further incremental changes. We will build a new system from the ground up. The current funding model, based on historical budget allocations, will be replaced by an insurance approach based on actuarial analysis of need and future costs. The scheme will respond to each individual's goals and aspirations for their lifetime, affording certainty and peace of mind for people with disability and their carers alike. The agency will work with people to plan and to take account of their individual circumstances and needs. The scheme will give people the care and support that is objectively assessed as being reasonable and necessary over the course of their lifetime.
The Prime Minister there speaking in Parliament just in the last hour or so. Well, Stella Young is the editor of the ABC's disability website Ramp Up, and she joins me now from Melbourne. Stella Young, good morning. A lot of people have fought a long time for this. How does it feel now that the legislation has actually been introduced?
It's a pretty momentous day for the disability community. We're all very excited. I've got friends who were in Parliament this morning texting me from the gallery. Right. It's absolutely amazing.
Why is it absolutely
it's a great
amazing?
Day. Look, we've fought long and hard for a better system of support for people with disabilities for years and years and years. I mean, I read books about activists who were fighting for this back in the 60s and 70s, and it's finally something that's coming to fruition. We have a disability support system that is well behind other countries, other similar countries, like the UK, for example, and in fact, we rank last in the OECD nations in terms of quality of life for people with disabilities. So this is finally a recognition that someone else knows this and someone else cares about fixing it.
Give us an idea of what it actually means. So for a person like you, what's the support that you get now, and how will that change in the future under this scheme?
Well, I'm really lucky in that at this point in my life I live completely independently. All I need is a functioning wheelchair. And at the moment I have to pay for that wheelchair myself. So because I live in Victoria, I get $8,000 towards the cost of a wheelchair. My wheelchair costs $22,000, so that's a shortfall of $14,000 that we have to pay for on our own. In future, it's looking like pieces of equipment like wheelchairs will be things that are provided to people based on need. And that makes a great deal of sense, because if I have a functioning wheelchair, I can work full-time, I can be a taxpayer, I don't claim the disability support pension or any other government benefit. If I didn't have a functioning wheelchair, I would not be able to leave my house, I wouldn't be able to leave my bed, I'd require full-time care, and I'd be very expensive. And I claim the disability support pension as well, so I'd be very, very expensive. This is an assurance that if that ever does happen, if my needs change, that I will be able to continue on with my life as I know it.
So for you at the moment, it means that you will, or in future, you'll be able to get that wheelchair contributed to you. You won't have to meet that shortfall. But say for someone now who needs care, there are family members who care for someone 24/7. What will this mean for them in future?
Well, what that'll mean, it'll make an enormous amount of difference. For a start, all of those unpaid carers who are now caring for people with disabilities in their families, they will be able to return to work. So that will be a really great thing for the economy. People will be able to choose who provides their care and support. So right now, someone might have to go through an agency for things like showering support. And because they have to go through an agency that might not necessarily be of their choosing, they don't know who will actually provide that personal care. So under the NDIS, they'll get a package of funds that they'll be able to choose who they employ to do their personal care work, and that provides more employment. So it's also better for the economy.
So situations now where someone needs family members caring for them, they will have the option in future of support, financial support, to get other people in caring for them, so that those family members can be out doing whatever they want.
Absolutely, and it's really important that people recognise that our parents should be allowed to just be our parents.
Yeah.
Our siblings should be allowed to be our siblings. Our partners should be our partners. We shouldn't have to be in relationships where caring is a factor. That creates a very unbalanced way to live for some people, and it's also really open to people being abused.
Yep. So hearing that particular example, you get an idea of just how significant this will be for people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a guy in Western Australia called Peter Darch, who under the current scheme is entitled to 10 hours of support in the workplace. He needs closer to 30 hours of support in the workplace. He's a quadriplegic, he's a youth worker, he's won Young Western Australian of the Year. He's very, very good at his job, but he's facing, having to quit his job without an NDIS because he can't survive on the minimal support he gets in the workplace. The irony is that if he quit his job, he'd be eligible for 40 hours of support in the home. So he'd be eligible for the support that he needs if he quit his job. He wouldn't be paying tax. He wouldn't be contributing to the lives of young people who are benefiting greatly from his contribution. He'd be claiming the disability support pension, and he'd have no control over his life.
Yeah.
So, it's going to make a really big difference to a lot of people. And really the important thing is that the NDIS is for all Australians. People live in fear at the moment of something happening to them. And this will take some of that fear away. I mean, right now we've got 7,000 young people living in nursing homes who shouldn't be there. They should be able to be supported in the community.
There's a bit of discussion today about how this is going to be funded. Do you have concerns that the money just isn't going to be there when it comes down to providing these services over the coming years?
Look, to be honest, I'm really sick of talking about the money. I'm really disheartened by conversations around how much this is going to cost and how we're all very expensive and burdensome to society. This is about righting a wrong. There have been people with disabilities for generations in Australia living with great injustice. This is about addressing that. I don't really care how much it costs. We just need to do it.
But the question is, are the governments going to come up with the money?
Well, they have to. They have to. And, people are framing this as a very expensive promise. It's only an expensive promise if you do the sums in a certain way. If you look at the fact that there'll be less people claiming the disability support pension, there'll be more people able to leave their houses and be employed. There'll be unpaid carers returning to work, and there'll also be people employed in disability care roles, and that provides more jobs. So it's only bad for the economy if you bad for the money if you look at it in one particular very narrow-minded way.
Yep. Well, there's a consultation period over the next 6 months. I think I'm sure you'll be a very keen contributor to that. Stella Young, thanks so much for talking to us this morning.
Thanks for having me.